I get this question all the time. What's it like to go to the Powder Coating Institute's Powder Coating Week in Orlando? Who attends and what do they talk about? Is it for custom coaters too? The answer is yes. Today, Executive Director Kevin Coursin joins me as we share the overall format of the conference, as well as cover the highlights of this year's event. We also take a deeper look at the topics and keynotes that will have the most impact in the coming year. We also discuss the vibe of this year's show and how PCI is committed to bringing relevant content and speakers to the custom coater community. Get ready to level up your powder coater game. Welcome to the Powder Coater Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Scott, where we talk about things about powder coating and interview influencers and talk to experts like our guest today, Kevin Coursin. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great, Kim. Always wonderful to talk to you.
I see you've got your branded shirt on today, so
yeah,
I can tell you've got your PCI hat on today, which is called the Powder Coating Institute. It's been a while since you've been here, so I'd like to ask you. Let's maybe review what is PCI and what does it do.
Oh, okay. I'd be happy to do that. The Powder Coating Institute, it's a trade association that's totally dedicated to powder. Our primary focus is to promote the powder coatings and to educate all our members and workforce on how to do powder coating. And that's part of where all our education comes in. We call it doing powder coating done right. You know, we don't want to have any problems out there and a bad name for powder. We wanted everybody to understand what it is and how to put it on correctly.
Yeah, and this isn't your first rodeo here at the podcast. I mean, we talked about the industry and how big it is and where it's going, and it's definitely growing. That's
Yes.
for sure. We got some good indications. In fact, I brought some PowerPoints up from the Powder Coating Week in Orlando. But before we get started doing that, I want to kind of just break, and I hope I don't mess up our jive or anything, but one of the things that one of the few first episodes that you ever came on, we talked about how are we going to fill this workforce. You know, it's always been top of mind for me. I've always asked the experts any chance I get that have come on the show, because we all know that we're struggling trying to hire the right people. And where are they? And where are they hiding? We're looking under rocks, and we're looking in the palm trees, and we just can't seem to find them. But I think there might be a ray of hope here with some good news that's come out on the horizon for powder coating. So just to kind of segue just for a moment, and then we're going to get back to insights from Orlando, because I am excited about talking about how much fun I had there this year. Really did have a good time, and the topics were amazing. But let me share my screen here, because there is a new article that's come out in the last week from Fortune and New York Times, talking about how Gen Zers are switching to trade schools, and learning the trades now instead of spending all the money and time at college only to get. So there's some interesting stats that I've kind of put together here, but one of the first things is, we've addressed a lot of it is just, especially in powder coating, a lot of these guys are in their 40s and they have a lot of information over the years that they've gathered, a lot of experience. And so the average age for powder coating is, these guys are going to be retiring in 10, 15 years, and what are we going to do with this knowledge, right? Where is it going? Is it just going to go retire and walk away, or are we going to try to act on what's available to us? But I'm just going to share this video here about the news.
Among college graduates, half of them are actually working in jobs where bachelor's degrees aren't even needed. And so, not surprisingly, all that is conspiring to create a feeling of skepticism. Do I need to go to four-year college to be successful? Do I want to take on that debt? Is it the only path? Are there alternate paths up there? And so if you look at some of the...
So that was the first one. I don't know. Did you hear that, Kevin?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. So basically what they're saying is you go out, you get this degree, you pay $100,000, $200,000 for a degree, and then you don't need the degree that you end up being a barista. Right?
An overeducated barista.
Exactly. A very good one, but yeah. This next one really inspires me a lot because it is Mike Rowe, and he's been kind of at this question, or trying to answer this question about trade schools versus college for a long time now. And, he has a foundation and stuff. So he was on a different TV show. So I just want to switch tabs here. Let's see if I can share this tab. And I'll hit play.
And the simple data is undeniable. Gen Z, for all the criticism that they take on a daily basis, is actually stepping up. And they're the first generation in 50 years to say, hey, wait a second. Why would I borrow $200,000? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Right? It's a good question.
And they're seeing on TikTok, people's crying in their cars. I'm $200,000 in debt. I've got a C average from a middling college with a liberal arts degree, and I can't get a job. And I think it's an excellent point. You run an amazing work ethic scholarship.
What's your reaction to this news? Do you think it's propaganda? Do you really think, they're saying that 16% people have signed up, like the most amount of people have signed up for these trade schools, mostly construction, some plumbing and HVAC too as well. But, that's a huge jump from just a few years ago where it was just all college.
Yeah, I think, if you go way back and probably to my generation, because I'm much older, when I was in high school, we had to take wood shop and metal shop and, all that type of thing. So you were exposed to it, and they offered more towards the trades than they did. And I think the pendulum has swung too far, and it's coming back now to balance itself out again. Because there are some very good jobs out there where you do not need the college education. Like they said in the talk there, you don't have to put you in there, and you can make a nice living. And even especially right now with the baby boomers retiring and that, there is a low end of it. So pay has increased because, in order to attract those people to come in and be able to do those jobs.
Right. There's less people to fill those jobs and stuff. There's also like a lot of talk about reshoring. There's a lot of talk about not relying on China so much for manufacturing goods and services and stuff like that. So, there are lots of factors to this. This was just some headline news about calling these Gen Zers the tool belt generation. I think there's a lot to prove just yet, but I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged to know that maybe the trend is changing, or the sea change is happening for that. And maybe it'll be easier to, we've often talked about what PCI can do for custom coders more and stuff like that. So as we, let's move on to some of the insights from Orlando, because there was the custom coder forum. It usually starts off with that. What type of people,
right,
usually attend these because you have it broken up into a couple of different phases. You have this custom coder forum, and then you have the technical conference. They're both all technical, not all of it, but like a lot of it is. So what have you seen, in terms of attendees? What would you like to see in terms of the future attendees?
Well, we always try and provide programming for the variety because, as you said, there are the people that need to operate and manage the shop itself, but then you have the technical side for the equipment and things that have to be designed and installed and then taught to the end users on it. So you really have a wide range, and that's one of our challenges is making sure that we get information out there. But like you said, when we started off on Powder Coating Week, we do our 101 back to basics, basically on powder coating. Yeah. And we had 108 people at the class.
It was stuffed. It was stuffed to the gills.
But when we ask up front, how many are new to powder coating? More and more as we go on, more hands are being raised saying,
"Oh, really?
This is my," yes. Even just this week, I was at a smaller 101 out in Minneapolis, and a third of the class, they had not been exposed or had done anything in powder coating yet. So there is a need out there, and I think people are realizing more that, hey, it's a good place to look into whether you want to start a business, like yourself, or if you just want to work in a business that's going to give you a nice, stable job for many years to come.
And so are they the Gen Zers that you're seeing coming, or are they older than that?
No, there's a lot of younger ones that are coming in. There still are a little bit of a mix in there. I think some of them have changed companies and now hopping into something that they hadn't been exposed with, so they got to learn on a quick hurry up time. But there are a lot of young Gen Zs, people saying, I'd like to start a powder coating shop, and they took the class, and I talked with one of them just yesterday as they were leaving, and he says, "Oh, this gave me the information I was looking for." He says we definitely, he had his partner there that they were going to go into business together, and they were all sort of gung ho and ready to really proceed and really start stepping into it a little bit. They got to, of course, buy equipment.
They should come and talk to me and Ross now.
Yeah, that we could do.
That might be the next step, Kevin. Get them all excited on the 101 and then come visit Maui and then see what happens after that, right?
But then as we went on and you and I were together in the Custom Coder Forum, and like you said, we have a couple speakers there talking on social media, one of your passions and things like that. But we got into some real world, how to use some test panels to troubleshoot. And we talked into that. And before we get into our normal, where we talk about issues that all custom coders are having problems with right now, we did bring in a couple of our board members to talk to you, because one thing we want to work on is putting together a supervision class for a powder coating shop. And we needed information, and you guys provided some great insight to us, and we feel a lot more confident now what direction we need to go in. So I want to thank you guys for providing us with that information on how we can help.
Yeah, I thought that it seemed like it was a resounding absolutely yes kind of thing, like to get working on it. In fact, I think that would be, I've talked to some other people behind, that were part of that group that was asking us on that first day. And, I think it's well deserved, well needed, much needed. And, the kind of stuff, the topics that you'll be covering are going to be so different and coming from almost entirely different angle, versus the applicator side of it, right? But then they also have to have that applicator side to even understand what's needed in the supervisory role, while I was at the trade show exhibit side, right, which is after a lot of these webinars and stuff that happen, I was kind of eavesdropping, going through different booths and stuff that people are there. And I walked over to Marty Sawyer. Her and I recently did a climate initiative episode recently on, energy uses and what are going to be the requirements for potentially changing our industry. But I was just overhearing, some of the people interested in talking to her and her company, because she does ovens. And, it was just kind of listening in on what some of the needs were and why they were there, like this one particular guy wanted to talk about getting a line oven, entry-level online oven for his business. Are most of these people looking to get into bringing it in-house, powder coating in-house, or are they looking to start a business? Where do you see most of their needs coming from when they go there to see to see the exhibitors and stuff?
I think it's a pretty good mix between those that just want to get into the business and get started with it versus they've been outsourcing and want to bring it in-house and start learning and talking with them. So I think it's a very good mix of people in there. And I don't think there's one that's overtaking another from what I can see as I talk to the individuals as they come by the booth or at the show itself.
Yeah. I mean, the networking this year was off the hook. Just to meet and see more exhibitors too than ever before. I think that was, people I had never seen, some of the same old faces, but then a lot of new companies that I'd never seen before. Even Dick Coral was there. I was surprised that I'd never seen them there before. Maybe they've come in previous years, but never when I've come,
And talking with them, that it seemed that some of the new ones that came in had recognized that they were sort of missing something here. That they could meet a lot of people, and and some of them, like the systems houses, where they're not everybody's going to be talking to them, but they like getting the word out, and so when someone a few years down the road needs something, they'll remember them.
Yeah.
So they enjoy talking with them.
I've got lots of business cards. Everybody was handing it out, and they're handing out good stuff too. I mean, it's not, I go there for color charts and meeting new faces and stuff in the industry, right? But there's a lot to offer there, and everybody is certainly in a good mood. That's for sure. One thing about powder coating people, they do like the bar area after. It's very popular. But so let's dive into the 101 workshop. I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about the attendance this year, how it's been off the hook. What are some of the key topics? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because I always, when I come and I'm like, I'm going to Powder Coating Week, and, I have a lot of listeners, and they're like, well, what's it like? So I guess that's kind of part of why I want to do this podcast with you today, because I want to give a good visual about what each day is like. So let's start with the 101 course. What usually happens in that course, and who, we kind of said a lot of who is attending these days. It's kind of like a lot of new people that have no information and just need something. But so what are the topics?
Right. Or it's people that, it's also people that have, let's say, have some older equipment and it's now time to replace. So they want to get refreshed a little bit and hear what's new out there. So there's some of those.
I see.
But the 101, the 101 basic is to, I call it, get the terminology and the understanding of what is powder coating. So, when we say that's the basics, there's a language out there. And, you and I have known each other for a long time. You've been in the business for a long time. So, we talk at a higher level of some things that are going on. But someone new coming in doesn't understand what that is. And that's where we really try and go through, you start out with the pre-treatment side. And, it can include chemical as well as blasting, but it's the why you need to do it and the advantages. If you do it, you put a conversion coating, and what does that get you? So you can understand the talking on that type of thing. And then we go into the powder, all the different types of powder. When to use this type versus another type, or and again, the chemistry side of it can get some people hung up a little bit, but that's why we provide the workbook and the handbook, because you sometimes have to go back and look it up. But if you don't know the question to ask someone, when you have a powder supply come in, and that's what they do a pretty good job of telling them, is say, tell your story. What do you want to get accomplished? And then they can fit it, and understanding why you're going a direction, helps everybody else to make sure that you're doing a good job. Number one, putting it on right. Then you're a product that your customers want. The last thing you want to do is put something out there that's going to just fade in a year's time, and they're going to be coming back and go, Kim, what'd you do to me? So that's where some of those. Then the equipment side, the handgun, and just call it the science behind it, why it works. And I had a guy came up and he says, I always sort of knew how to powder coat, but I didn't know why I was doing it. And so he learned to put some things together, and why does powder stick onto parts? He knew it did.
Yeah.
But,
right. I mean, and actually, I think that if it's taught right, it can be oversimplified, because you can get really technical and deep pretty fast. Even just in reading some of the articles that are in your magazine, Powder Coated Tough magazine, or some of the other ones like Product Finishing or whatever, you can get in the weeds pretty fast, right? But it doesn't have to be that way, because I think that a lot of people they're either visual learners, or they're like or kinetic learners, and then there's the other logical kind of way of looking at things, from a super high level. But in a sense, this is kind of funny, but I just was watching Instagram, and this little video came up about this guy talking about bees, and they put and flowers, and they put a little node on the flower to listen to the sound or the vibration it makes. And it actually gives off this positive charge to the bee, who's attracted to the flower for the pollen. So the bee knows exactly where it needs to go, right? Which flower has pollen. And then the minute it hits that, stamen inside, it like the pollen just naturally attracts to the bee's legs, and I'm like, oh, how simple is that? And then after the bee goes there, does its thing and leaves, the next bee that comes, it changed the electrode, or the vibration changes in the flower to let the next bee know it doesn't have enough charge. It doesn't have enough pollen now. And I'm like, wow, that's essentially kind of because they were just talking about positive and negatively charged ions, right? So I'm like, you could break it down that simple if you needed to, right? And I thought, how cute is that, right? You could teach a 5-year-old. So let's talk about the Custom Coder Forum specifically. I know to me, I felt like it was a little harder and a little bit more rushed and put together on that day. I mean, custom coders are so variable. How can we find topics that are relative to such a wide variety of coders? It's hard, do you need test panels? Right. Not everybody does. What level is the custom coder at? And that is, I think, going to continue to be a little difficult to bring relative content, because we don't really know this group and who's coming.
Right. That's the biggest challenge that we do have. We're trying to make it general information that's usable, call it taking the nugget home. Someone can grab hold of it and do something with it.
But when it comes to technical conference, which is the next 2 days, that just, I mean, a lot of it is about line systems, but not all of it.
Mhm.
They do talk about, troubleshooting. There was a lot of troubleshooting ones, and
Right.
stuff like that, which you can apply to custom coders or batch coders and stuff. How would you describe the technical conference versus the custom coder forum?
The difference is anything we try and do for the custom coder forum, we try and, it would be definitely applicable for it. On the other side, now we are taking a broader audience, of including OEMs, some other suppliers that are, in the industry trying to learn things. So that sort of opens up a little bit the subject area. But again, we try and keep it going from the standard that has been there. Like you mentioned, we had 2 classes on different troubleshooting aspects of it, which, a lot of people knew. We always have our new technology session.
Yeah.
Just trying to present what's new out there.
When you attend, you get this USB that has all of the presentations on there. And I was just thumbing through that today. And I'm like, dang, how did I miss this presentation? I mean, everyone was interesting, but like I somehow missed a few of these presentations that I now have PowerPoints for and information on, and stuff. But I seem like I couldn't. I think that's what the problem was for me, is there were so many in this one section or this one time limit, right, in the afternoon or morning, that I was like, oh, I could attend both of them, right? Like I couldn't do
Yeah.
both at the same time. I mean, it's great that we have these PowerPoints, because you can actually go back and review them and still glean information from them and stuff. One of the first days we had some keynote speakers. A couple of them in particular was the economist, Chris Kuehl, from Armada. I always love listening to every word that man says. He's, of course, entertaining and funny, as always, which you do need some comic relief sometimes at a trade show. What were some of the key takeaways that you got from Chris? I mean, he always seems to kind of give you this warm hand, like it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I always like his take that, it never is as bad. Yeah, as bad as it is, you can move forward. And he gives you some areas where to sort of watch.
Yeah.
And especially when you get into the world situation that's always going on, he always has some really nifty insights into, we get so hung up on our United States area and we're such big and compared to everyone else. We don't always have to worry about some of those areas.
And I do always walk away from his talks feeling more positive and, confident that things aren't as doomy gloomy as the general news likes to.
And he does break down, call it that theoretical, economist type talk into simple terms that I can understand and everything. And then you really feel and see, and I've learned from him over the years of watching things, and I've seen reactions to the market or to situations that are going on. And I went, oh yeah, Chris was talking about that.
Yeah. One of the things, the first day, first thing in the morning, was these 3 topics about new innovations and trends. And I can't believe I almost decided I was going to stay in bed that morning because, I was still jet lagged pretty bad. And anyways, I decided I'm going to roll out of bed and get this done. And I'm so glad I didn't miss it, because Mike Withers from Exalta talked about 2605 finishes. Right. I couldn't find his presentation, but I do have a couple of slides from the other 2. She talked about EV, Sarah Mueller.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was the first time I ever heard from like a PPG person talking about the EV market, which is, obviously everybody's talking about it, and how possibly, and this is the slide that I liked the most, where, we're talking EVs are important because powder coaters will be doing more powder coating on EV cars versus regular gas guzzling cars today, right?
Right.
And so basically everything on this slide that's in blue is sort of stuff that's going to be coming to more in the forefront for powder coating, specifically the components and the housings for the batteries. Anybody that want to take advantage of that could have a very high risk. They'd have to have an appetite for high risk. Don't you agree? Because they were going to just change things on a dime, you know?
Yeah, and they don't have the longevity of time to see whether it panned out, correctly or not.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I thought that there was a lot on these slides, right? So when you're in the back of the room, you can't barely, it's hard to see all the words and stuff. But I mean, I understood what she was talking about. And certainly when it came to the questions, I was thinking, does she really know what she's talking about? Or is she just, during the presentation, because it was like a lot to take in. But actually, she kind of knew quite a bit about what they were going to do and stuff. So I'm very encouraged, especially after listening to Chris and everything, talk about these new innovations. I think the second one was the guy from the wood coating side, right? Let's see, what's his Keelan Polymer, Michael Knobloch.
Right.
He was really cool. And one of the questions I asked after listening to his presentation, which, there's a lot of upside to his business for sure, because pretty much every cabinet in the world is painted with solvents, almost all of them, right? Or something like a solvent-based paint. So the upside, I mean, we need cars and we need kitchen cabinets, right? Everybody does. So these are two huge game-changing technologies that if we can make them more, present and, fully functional Death Stars, I think they'd definitely be.
Right.
But they're still kind of experimental in the sense that the window for just having the right dial in the right temperature, the right moisture level for wood and everything is a really small window of success. So would you agree with that? Or
although the window is small on wood, they've been working on it for the last 10 to 15 years, and I think we're a little bit beyond the experimental now. I think we have the knowledge. It's there, and it's the one thing that really didn't come out when they were talking about it. That having myself been involved with it, it shows the two different markets. The EV market is really being pushed quickly from the people that have to provide it. They need the batteries, they need all those type of things. So everybody's rushing to catch up on it. The wood has been doing it a little bit, and we do. I mean, there is still quite a few wood panels and cabinets that are being powder coated. They have proven themselves out. There is a cost savings in the installation side. Now, what we're getting to is all those companies that had all those expensive liquid systems out there are getting old, and now they have to replace.
Yeah.
So now if you're going to look at a system putting in, let's take another look at this powder stuff. And I think you're going to see people coming in a little bit more on it.
We all know, aside not just from systems, but also the climate initiative stuff and energy outputs and inputs and all of that in terms of being carbon neutral or having these points against you or putting back into it to get points out, is definitely going to be. But I found both of those presentations awesome. Mike Withers talking about 2605 and how those are going to be more coming to the forefront. What I liked about these presentations wasn't just the information, but that the questions that came from the audience after were super engaging. Like, they were really good questions. How would you describe the atmosphere of the tabletop tabletops and the exhibits after. I thought it was festive.
I think the atmosphere, it was sort of, I call it exciting. I mean, everyone was there, and like you had mentioned before, everybody was in a pretty good mood, but a lot of people just wanted to learn. And as they were going around, they were sort of like your bumblebee, just flipping from one flower to another, just to try and collect all the information they can at each of the different stops and learn something new. And I did ask a couple of the exhibitors, and they said they had some people coming in that had distinct things that they wanted to talk about. Either they had a problem or a new project, or wanted to get a better idea what direction they should go forward in. So they were pretty excited to talk to the groups that were coming through.
Yeah, I found it really festive and upbeat. I think everybody felt rather positive about their business.
I would agree.
I would say that room ruminated that. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a ho hum or I don't know. It was just a happy, buzzy vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of recap some of what we're talking about here and what you can expect, because there's going to be, let me stop sharing this tab. There's going to be like another powder coating week next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm amazed that you guys have already put up the, the website and stuff. But before we get to that, what are the key takeaways? As someone who attended Powder Coating Week, what were your personal insights or takeaways from the event overall?
I think there was a lot of people that are coming in there, the new people to learn, and even one of the individuals after the first day of the 101, he came up to me and we were talking. He says, I learned more today than having powder coated for a year. And
wow.
And I thought that was a takeaway, that he again, it's that understanding for someone that didn't have it. And you probably started the same way, as where you just decided you were going to do the business and you dove in, and it was a hands-on type of there.
Right.
What I think this offers is just a little bit more of that knowledge base to help improve, to help get the right direction going. To make sure that you're doing it right and you've got the top quality, and learning all the troubleshooting tips and things you can do to figure out when things go wrong and, what you have to do.
Yeah, I agree. And you're going face to face with people that have the answers that you're looking for. I mean, and if not, then, I know that they will put you in charge, in touch with somebody that, that will, right, if they're not there for that. And I also, go ahead.
And another comment someone came from another industry, and he said he really couldn't believe how much sharing was going on between companies, between competitors, and that type of thing, answering like any question that's out there. And, it's I always call us a small community. I mean, we're quite large and that type of thing. But I thought that was really a nice comment to hear, that, from someone that had came from a different industry.
I agree. And I also found that the exhibitors sent, of the ones that were there, they didn't just send any old person, from like the back office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They sent the people that actually had the answers right then and there, or they were in charge, or, and answered your question right away. That is what impressed me this year versus other years, where it's been like, if I've asked a question, they're like, oh, I don't know, or, hey, I'm just the conference guy, don't ask me too many questions kind of thing. This was like, no, this was people that had those answers, which I found very, exciting, but also like responsible, of the exhibitors that just knew that, hey, we're going to take this seriously. Right.
Yeah.
that we need to be there to
we've
answer
also
those
talked
things.
a little bit, even at the board level, that as the next generation, whether it's Gen Z or X, as they're taking over and all that, people are going to be leaving with a lot of knowledge. That institutional knowledge is there. But what I talk with a lot of the older ones that are getting near retirement, one of their missions in life really is to try and do as much transfer of that knowledge as they can. They really want to share what they've learned with the younger generation, and I find that enlightening. That the people in the industry really want to see it survive well past their time that they're gone.
Exactly. And that was part of, coming back to that supervisory class and getting those people that are now retiring or getting ready to retire to kind of pass that knowledge, or at least gather that knowledge in order to share it, right, for generations.
Right, absolutely.
I think part of that, Kevin, is that the guys that are in these positions are very humble. They're humble people. So they don't realize that how important the information and experiences that they've gathered over the last 40 years could actually benefit somebody. I know, and it's kind of without getting into too much hero worship there, but it's really, really important. It's critical almost that we convey that message to these guys that are in these positions or in these situations for their company, whether it's a powder coating gun company or a powder supplier company or pre-treatment. It doesn't matter. It's all of it is good and all of it is necessary, right? So
yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's good. That's good.
But yeah. Well, let me turn the tables on you once.
Oh,
why have you come back? Why have you come back to the Powder Coating Week for several times? What do you find that's interesting and attractive for it?
Well, I'm a seeker of knowledge, right? So I love the fact that I can get access to these people because I am so far away and every year I just seem to meet new and more and new people that I thought I had, I just met a new guy like Scott Crossley from ACT. I had no idea, about him or anything like that. So, it was great to meet him, but also there were several other professionals there that I hadn't met in previous years. And I'm like, well, where have you been? So every year I get to meet new people and I'm just a connector of people. You guys are on it this year because you already have Powder Coating Week 2025 already up, which is awesome.
Yeah. So all scheduled for April 14th to 16th.
Yep. Same place, the Renaissance. It's just such a nice place. I don't want to say I have high levels, but, high standards, but I am from Hawaii. So when I go to a hotel, I want a nice hotel. I don't want, I want to sleep comfortable. And this place, it just always delivers and stuff.
Yes, it does.
So, the conference is getting bigger though, Kevin. So it'll be interesting. We might have to fill in some more rooms, maybe, possibly. For sure. But the dates are April 14th through the 16th, 2025. Can you buy tickets yet?
No, we don't. We do not have the registration open for it. We just more trying to get things going. And we are talking with all the exhibitors. So they are choosing their spots. The one thing for 2025 is we are expanding where the tabletops are to try and allow even more people to come in because we were limited, but also to try and spread it out because it was crowded in some areas.
But it's a nice hotel in the sense that, there's lots of great restaurants in the area that, you can go to. Most of the time, I'm usually so tired. I usually just hang out by the bars. There's a couple of really nice bars. The food is incredible and very consistently good. And of course, there's just always somebody new to meet. And just like any conference, people are there to meet people. So they don't have any kind of pretentiousness about them. They're just, hey, I'm so-and-so. What do you do? And then the exchange happens. Next thing you know, it's easy to talk about powder coating in all shapes and forms. So thanks for coming on the show, Kevin.
All right. Thank you for having me. And again, it was always wonderful to see you in person while we were together there at this conference. So hopefully I'll get a chance to see you next year.
It is. With that, everybody have a great day. Aloha.